All right, so call to order the meeting of January 25th, 2021. We're meeting under the restrictions of the COVID-19 remotely through Zoom. So I don't have my agenda printed, as I told Wendy, so I guess the first thing to do is accept the minutes of the November 2020 meeting, which I emailed to everybody. Anybody have any questions of Steve?
The only thing that I noticed, that the Ferry Street construction, I would feel better if it said the intersection, the Ferry Street intersection with the trail, because I don't know that I guess we could argue whether it's a trail improvement or not. I just want to be clear that it wasn't a trail project. It was an intersection project that impacted the trail. That's
okay. Do you want to just email me your suggested wording and I'll just put it in the minutes? Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, and just you can send the revised version to me, Steve, when you get it done.
Okay.
Okay. All right. With that change, is there a motion to accept the minutes of the November 2020 meeting?
I make a motion.
Second. Somebody second it.
I second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right. Well, we have Jeff with us, so why don't we just hop to that so Jeff doesn't have to hang around longer than he has to. So why don't you just go ahead, Jeff?
Thank you. And I also have, I think it's under Samantha, is Mike Manhan, the developer of the project at Ferry Street, is on the call too.
Okay.
So a while back, quite a while ago, the city council reviewed an easement proposal, like a set of easements that would benefit both the city and the owner and developer of Ferry Street. And we've been going back and forth, and the project has so many parts and components that now we're kind of back at the easement discussion. And there's a section in there that talks about potential closures of the rail trail. And I think at one of the last meetings I mentioned it or brought it up to this committee, and you all had some questions, and I didn't have the exact language in front of me, and so we talked about, I think this was in November maybe or December, and now I kind of wanted to bring it to the committee and the developers here to answer any questions and just, I guess, present the proposed language and make sure that, generally speaking, everyone understood what could happen if the trail needed to be closed in case of construction activity. I'll let Mr. Manhan talk for a minute too, but I think the project is so large and of a scale that, there will be construction activity going on for, let's say 10 years. And during that period of time, it does seem likely that there could be periods of time where equipment or things need to happen either across the trail or adjacent to the trail, such that it would potentially require the closure of the trail, which when we were doing the road project, there was a commitment and we tried really hard to not close the trail. It did end up happening, and we kind of added a lane. We added a side lane to keep people going, even though it was reduced to one lane. But I think that there is an understanding that it could happen in the future that the whole trail needs to be closed. And so the easement would set forth a couple criteria. And I sent the language to Barbara. Barbara, did you get a chance to send it out, or?
I think I did send it out.
I have it available if we want to review the language, but I think maybe before I do that, Barbara, if it's okay, if I could ask Mr. Manhan to just give an overview from his perspective and fill in any gaps, Mike, that I missed, just to bring the committee kind of up to speed where we are today.
Sure. Thank you.
And excuse me just for one moment. May I have your first name, sir? I'm assuming it's not Samantha because that's what it's showing me on the screen. So what's your first name?
My name is Mike Manhan.
Okay, Mike. Sorry, I take the minutes, so I need that. All right, thank you.
Sure. So the main part of this that we definitely will need the bike path closed at some point is because we have to actually tie our sewer lines into the sewer interceptor, which runs north of the bike path. So behind the buildings, if you're on the bike path and you're looking towards the Ferry Street project, that's south. So depending on which way you're going, north is to the opposite side, and that's where the sewer interceptor is. So throughout the project, we're going to have to make two major connections into that. One for the west side of our project and one for the east side of our project. The west side will happen in 2021. The east side is unknown at this point. And obviously there'll be a lot of work along the chain link fence that's there right now to the project.
So Mike, we first of all, I want to say thank you for helping with the tree removal in that area.
Sure, you're welcome.
That finally got done. So the chain link fence that you're talking about, is it the one that's there that's kind of falling in towards your property?
Correct.
Okay. That's going to be neatened up and made better, I assume.
The goal is that there'll be a new black chain link fence.
Okay.
It'll be right along the bike path at a later date.
Okay.
So it'll be, it won't be like it is now, obviously.
Good. It's kind of, it's a mess right now.
It is a mess.
So, I think last time I didn't have all the details, and we went back and forth a little bit on the potential closure types. And so the easement language talks about closures that would be 5 days or less. And I think the idea of that is that if those were necessary, they would be those types of closures would be allowed, anytime during the year, and there's some notice requirements. The other type of closure would be something that might take longer. And so Mr. Mishan, was agreeable to trying as hard as possible to make those closures happen more like in the off season and the less utilized season. So that language is supposed to, hopefully that's clear in there. I did realize that there's probably we changed the winter months, and it seems like maybe the other months are not totally calibrated. So maybe if I shared my screen briefly, Barbara, I could. Okay. So if everyone can see the language here, there is a clause for in case of an emergency. So then it starts off with 30 days advance notice. Actually, it's 30 days advance notice except for in the case of an emergency. No portion of the path will be obstructed for more than 5 consecutive days between May and October. And so that's the date. I think I'll continue on and then I'll work on the dates. And then no more than 14 consecutive days between December and March.
What about April, Jeff? April was omitted in that.
Yeah, I think, yes, that's what I was fishing around to figure out how to explain that. So, I would ask, just talking with Mr. Mishan here, we worked on the December and March 31st. There was agreement that those would be suitable dates to call winter, and that would allow for longer duration closures. But then I would assume that we would add the other 2 months, November and April, to that first clause for 5 day, up to 5 day closures. So that language just didn't catch up with conversations.
It'd be May 1st or April 1st to November 31st.
Yep. And that's, March is a little bit questionable, but April is really, April to November is when the path is in high use. And so I think the applicant was agreeable to kind of accommodating that request to really shrink the, closures to 5 days during that period of time. And then, to my knowledge, and I've had a couple of conversations with Barbara, we don't really have established criteria. So we wanted to provide notice. So it says to coordinate with the chief of police and the bike path committee and take all steps, measures reasonably necessary to ensure the public's continued use of the path, which may include a requirement for the applicant to install safety fencing or other barriers, and then provide continuing or alternative access or alternative routes and signage relative to the same, and to minimize the duration and extent of obstruction. So those were all things that we talked about adding in to give the 30 days notice. And then if it's a full closure, then there would have to be signs and an alternative route. And I think cases in between could be one lane, deduced to one lane, but people would still be able to get by. So that's kind of the summary at this point. And I don't know if the committee maybe has questions or anything we can offer for information.
Jeff, weren't we going to add or designee after bike path committee?
Yeah, Barbara, do you want to explain what your thought was on that?
Sure. So I'm figuring, who knows who's going to be in charge of the bike path down the road, whether it's the Park and Rec Commissioner or if it's somebody else. But since this is going to be a really pretty long-term easement, I would think it would be better to have like another option in there besides bike path committee in case this flips over entirely to the Park and Rec Commission. So that kind of just leaves it open a little bit more, I think. That was my thought.
I have another question. So when you say that you might have longer than 5 days, how long are we talking about, Mike? What do you guess would be the longest?
I can't, I wouldn't be able to commit to that because I really don't know, we did not do any testing in the bike path area. I have no idea what's involved up there. Typically if you're putting a sewer line in, it should be only a couple of days. Where you're excavating. Obviously we can't excavate a sewer line in the middle of the winter because the ground is frozen. It'll do more damage than anything else. So we have to be, either at the front end of it or the back end of it. And that's all I can really say. The sewer line is really the only major excavation part, other than the work that's going to be between the bike path and the property itself. That'll be more of like landscaping. They won't be literally digging up the bike path.
So the closures, we're not talking months.
No, I think, what we have there, I spent a lot of time on this with Jeff and two attorneys, and, we beat this thing up till, I was satisfied, the city was satisfied. So, everybody seems to be protected here. Obviously for us, it'd be perfect if we do it in the middle of summer, but I know that's not an option. So, we are where we are.
Well, the only option would be to provide a little go around, a little alternate trail, but I don't know if that would cost more than it's worth.
It wouldn't. It's not feasible because there's conservation land all over the place there.
Okay.
Well, do we have a detour, that we can mark out for people?
They would have to go down like Ferry Street and go in through Goslin Drive probably.
All right.
If they were going to Route 5. And the other direction they could go down, it depends on where you'd cut it off.
Yeah, and I think the way that Mr. Michon described is that the fork, the fork in the path,
Yeah.
where I'm not that good with directions. If you go right, if you're leaving town and you go right, that's probably the spur that would be subject to closure based on what Mr. Michon just described in terms of where that sewer is. The path that parallels along Lovefield and that, no one has a crystal ball, but that's generally not the area that we're talking about. So, most of that work got done with the project as it's underway now.
Could do a detour that sent people over by Arcadia.
Yeah.
It's a lot safer that way.
Well,
going
to
down
get to
Ferry.
Route 5, it would be fastest to go up Ferry Street and go down Goslin Drive and pick up the trail there, if they're going to
Yeah.
Route 5.
Yeah. It seems to me, though, I mean, we've got to, we kind of have to do that because, I mean, people here know the trail and they know where to go, but someone from Northampton coming up here and expecting you to go all the way through and finding the trail closed, they're going to need some signage or something.
Yep, and that is written in there, Stephen. And so it is acknowledged that there would have to be, if it's a full closure, there would have to be a sign plan.
Okay.
And I think Barbara's correct that when we had the discussion with the chief of police as well, I think it was, if it comes to that, I think Goslin is where the sewer treatment plant is as well, and you would leave the trail there. You would have to traverse, you'd have to go up a hill on Goslin, but then you would land on Ferry Street, and there is, although it's a little bit rough, there's a sidewalk back all the way down to Ferry Street, and then where the intersection, the new crossing is. So you would be able to get around that way.
Yeah. That's not too bad.
I didn't look at the language that closely, and I don't have it in front of me, but if things change, if your ownership changes, or if something changes, is there a way for the city to amend this easement or get out of the easement if the project gets taken over by somebody else?
No, this is an easement, so this is a recorded document, so this is going to run with the land.
Okay.
If there's a need for 5 days to do the work, I think it would be helpful if those were 5 weekdays, because I think there's more likely to be weekend traffic than on a weekday, even though there's traffic all the time. So just putting that out there as something to consider, just in terms of the needs of the users of the path.
Yeah, I mean, typically the construction's done on weekdays anyway.
Yeah.
Correct.
My other comment would be when we had the work done on the mills, with the current mills on the other side of Ferry Street, that the trail was impacted negatively. There's a lot of cuts in the pavement, and there's a lot of dips, and there were a lot of places where the machinery dug into the pavement, and it was not as good as it was before they started. It was perfect. It was brand new, and it was damaged. And I'm wondering, I know I saw that there was some language in there to try to restore it to its present condition or better. And I just hope that that's truly the case for this project.
I can tell you that the other project was much more of an impact, because it was that retaining wall there's a lot more work involved, and then they crossed the bike path to go down to get the two detention pond areas. So there was significant work that we won't be doing. I mean, our biggest amount of work really is putting in a 3-inch PVC pipe across the bike path into a sewer main. So
Yeah.
it would consist of maybe a 2 or 3 foot cut in the pavement, and then restoring.
Hopefully, I think as what Mr. Michon is saying, hopefully it'll be more isolated or more specific. So the sewer work will be in a pretty clear area. And then, Mike, I think like if you're working on that embankment and doing tree removal and that kind of thing, it would be important to just be monitoring if there are vehicles crossing onto the path and any damage that would be done. Then, it'll be clearer if there's damage done as a result of, part of that work, rather than that the retaining wall work must have been very extensive and going on for a long time, and it could have gotten lost in the shuffle as to when something happened to the path. So we should be able to monitor that better moving forward, because the project has a much more limited scope.
Correct.
I just wanted to throw this one other thing out there. Didn't I hear some talk a couple meetings ago about when we were, Jeff, I think it was you were here talking about the Ferry Street project, kind of in depth. And wasn't there consideration to add a link to the trail on the opposite end of the Ferry Street project, so that as you were going up Ferry Street, you'd actually be able to go left and go over to the bike trail?
Yeah, that's still envisioned as part of the east side, as Mr. Michon described, which currently doesn't have a clear timeline on it, but that is still envisioned. So if you're traversing behind the One Ferry Street property, there's the next complex over is, October Companies, and it would be in that vicinity. So there is still a bike path connection, in concept discussed there. I think that would actually probably be easier, because you could probably get from interior of the development property, you could work up to the connector as to where it meets the path. But yeah, that is still, that's something that we're hoping to fund through the DIF and some other, cooperative work with the developer.
I was just throwing it out there because it would alleviate a lot of the stress of the having a detour, right? If people could just take a right, go down Ferry Street, the new section, and right up to there and come over, then it would be a lot easier for the construction part, because it would be an off-road detour basically. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, no, I think that if it would all be about the timing of when that path would be sort of available versus the timing for the sewer connection. But that would be in the ideal situation, is that second path connector would be open. But I don't know if Mike wants to talk about that, but I think if it were available, we would utilize it, I'm sure, because it'd be a much easier detour.
Okay.
So what do you need from us, Jeff?
Yeah, that's been unclear. Mr. Misha, myself, and the mayor we really wanted to bring this to the committee, because it is something that we didn't have fully fleshed out when City Council was looking at the easements. The rest of the easements are very technical and are about kind of parking and then some of the utility work. So this was pretty specific to closing the rail trail. So we wanted to bring it to the committee to make sure you understood that this could happen. And then I don't know if you would take a vote or not. We just wanted to make sure that you had knowledge of the easement language and the opportunity to chime in. I don't want to dodge Mr. Jaffe's question. I would ask Mr. Michon as well to confirm, but I think the way it's laid out right now is it's 5 consecutive days. But I would imagine that there's probably, it would be hard to put 5 business days in the event that the construction were to start on a Thursday and it would be closed over a weekend. But Mike, I don't know, do you have any comments on that idea of the business days?
I think the thing is, again, with all due respect to all of you, I mean, we were methodical about this, and this took a lot of time to get this, to try to make this work for everybody. So we came down. I mean, we originally wanted more. We wanted 7 days, or 10 days, or 14 days, and we ended up with 5 days. And that's. I would rather just keep it at 5 days. I mean, it's going to be, I'm hoping it's going to be 2 days, but I'd rather have 5 days just in case.
Mike, would you be willing to at least, especially the sewer connection that happens next year? I mean, that's going to be fresh in all of our minds. But I mean, would you be willing to give it some thought as to?
I can't. I know where you're going with this, Jeff, and I really can't, because it all determines on, it's really scheduling, and it's a significant project where the site contractor comes in, and let's say instead of them starting on a Monday, we got multiple days of rain, and now we had to start on a Wednesday. And for us, if they didn't finish by Friday, for us to put everything back to make it passable, could be very expensive with road plates and, all sorts of caution apparatus, and we don't want to be carrying Jersey barriers, although we put Jersey barriers up before and people just seem to drive right into them. But I mean, it just, it's a lot more involved. So I would feel comfortable with just 5 days.
I think the spirit of this feels really clear to me, which is that, there's a clear consideration of wanting to, close the path as little as possible and make sure that when it is closed, that people are able to know where they're going. And I really appreciate working, Jeff and Mike, both of you working together to have that as a consideration. So, thank you for that. I mean, I think this is really different than where we would have been 20 years ago, where it would have just been closed for months on end. You know what I mean? It wouldn't without a thought.
That's a good point. And actually, that going back, Wendy, to your point, this is actually an agreement that's in the cities and in the bike path. This is putting restrictions on the developer. So it's not something we would want to get out of if the ownership changes. In fact, we'd probably want to make sure that the next guy had to follow it as well. So
I think it might be good for us to vote or somehow to say that we support this. I mean, just if nothing else, because this is officially getting approved by City Council, Jeff, or how is that? What is this needed for?
What is needed for the committee to know that is happening. What happened was the City Council gave the mayor the authority to execute the agreement.
Okay.
And this language wasn't really in there, and this has evolved. And as Mike said, we've been talking about this for a while amongst many other things, but we wanted to double back because this was kind of it was different than, it was added language that wasn't in that first iteration. So, the mayor is authorized to execute it, but she and I and the developer wanted to bring it to the committee before she did, just to make sure there wasn't something horribly wrong with it before the mayor signs it. So,
yeah.
I think, Barbara, I don't know, that the committee understands that the easement is going to get executed and has no substantial opposition. I don't know exactly what to do. I know that you had some concerns about other situations and the committee's advisory role, but just making sure that we brought it to you was what we kind of want to do.
Yeah, I don't have any problem. I think it's reasonable, and we certainly want to accommodate this project as much as we can. I did just have one little question. I know that in the past, when we've tried to close the trail, people will go around, will do everything in their power to go around things. I was just wondering, especially if it goes over a weekend, what does it really mean to have the trail closed? Because people will go through everything.
Totally. I can totally appreciate that. And I've seen it, and I think you've heard about it, and I've witnessed it a couple times. I actually witnessed it this summer.
Yep.
With Gomes, with somebody, rollerblading and tripping and falling on hot asphalt. And I mean, I don't know how many more cones and markers and tape and signs they could have had, but that's the problem, Barbara. Exactly. I mean, all we can do is, represent that we're doing it. We're closing things by signage.
Yeah.
And we're closing the area that could be a really bad accident as safely as possible, so somebody can't fall into a hole or something.
Right.
That's all. That's all we can do. I mean,
I assume that if there's a trench or something and they have to leave it over the weekend, there'll be a plate or something.
Exactly.
There won't be anything like especially if it ended up over a weekend where somebody could really fall and.
Yeah, but I mean, people, I don't need to tell you, people, I watch video of right behind the back of the project on Ferry Street, on Pleasant Street, the guy on his bike, he drove right straight. I don't know how fast he was going, but he was going pretty fast. He drove right into a Jersey barrier. He had his head down.
Yeah.
I mean, making sure that there's clear detour signage, I think makes a big difference on that. I think where people, I think where that happens partly is when people are going down a path and just says closed, and they have a place to go, and they don't know where. You know what I mean? Like they don't know where to go, but they know if they keep going on the path. So I think that part of this agreement is really important, because I think that'll prevent people from going into play, or not everyone, but some that would otherwise have kept going.
Well, I mean, the thing, it's a valid point, but I mean, we can only put up things because people take them down. You know what I mean? So it's almost like, if we put up temporary fencing and somebody pulls it off the stanchion and throws it on the ground, or if we put up, orange fencing and then somebody cuts it with a knife.
Yep. Yeah, you can only do so much.
Right.
But
exactly.
Okay. So I don't know, maybe we can take a vote of support or something like that. I don't know what, an acknowledgement and support or something. Does that sound reasonable, Jeff?
Yeah, I think that is totally fine. Yes, I think that'd be good.
All right, so I don't have really wording on that, but does anybody want to make a motion? Wendy, you're good at that. Oh, you're muted.
Still muted.
Still muted.
There we
There
go.
you go.
There you go.
I make a motion that we support the easement as written and presented to us by the city planner.
Second,
Second.
any comments, any input?
The only thing I would add to that, and not that it matters too much, but just that I think it's important to maybe put in there and express our appreciation for the considerate, you know what I mean, for working to really consider the needs of cyclists using the path or something. You know what I mean? Just something that I don't know, Wendy, you can wordsmith that for your motion, but just to say that because again, like 20 years ago, this wouldn't have been. It would have been like, we're just going to close the path for, not this path, I'm just in life in America, and I think it's important to recognize that we have a city where we have a developer that are working together to really work with the path.
That's fine.
You got that, Steve?
Yeah,
Something like that.
yeah, it'll be paraphrased.
Okay.
Great.
All right, so do I have a motion? We have a motion and a second to support the easement as presented by the city planner. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
Steve, if you could write that down and email it to me, that would be great.
Okay.
Anything else, Jeff? Did you want to update us on the light situation behind the mills?
Yeah, I would. Thank you.
This is for you, Steve.
If you don't mind, I'm just going to refer to an email I have. I was trying to be prepared for the meeting tonight, and so I had a communication with the DPW director. He said the city has a contractor that has been working on them. So I think originally what Mr. Nodelman said was that they sought a quote from an electrician to do the work, and he said it was like a ridiculously high quote to do the inspection and things. So I think he figured out a way to have the city's sort of contractor who does this kind of work go out and look. And so I don't know exactly what they've done, but they've fixed it so that Greg says that there are there's still two lights out that he noticed, and it sounds like they were on the same pole by National Nonwoven. So I never got to see the series of lights that Stephen had said were out, but there were more than one. And so the city's contractor has been getting out there and working on them, and so now there's one pole left that still has two. It's like the it's the double-sided light, so the two lights are still out. But I mean, Greg's been great, and of the many things that he has going on, he was able to keep track of that and keep that moving.
That's great.
And then, I think with a little bit of help from Barbara and probably Greg also was able to put some larger stones out behind the Legion to start to prevent cars from traversing over.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So it's a bit of a work in progress, and I think it took a little bit longer than I would have thought to do that. But I think Greg put the stones out where there was evidence of vehicles traveling over, and I think we have to wait and see. But if it starts to have the domino effect, where if the cars move over to the next section, we'll continue to work on that. But that was something that Greg took pretty serious, and so he got a crew out there and did that. Well,
You may end up needing a fence because there is a big open space there. And then there's that other dirt road that they made for the construction equipment that just has a little red cone, and then all anyone has to do is move
There's
the
stones there now.
Really?
Yeah, because I had put that cone there when I saw people were driving there.
Oh, really?
And then so there were some stones there, but I also noticed the stones further to the end, closer to Ferry Street. There must have been a pickup truck with really high clearance that actually must have gone over one of the stones, because you could see recent traffic.
Okay. What I would hope and offer to the committee is, I think the project is going to go into the spring for what you might call a punch list kind of thing. So there's a lot of final details, and if there's an opportunity to put up something else, we'll look at that. And I think we'll just monitor it for now. But I think, Greg, as I would say again, Greg's been really great and responsive. So if there's a need to put additional stones there, I think he would do that. He was trying to fill those gaps that were kind of obvious. I think it's that tendency for once you see that, opportunity, people were taking it. So.
Yeah.
And actually, as of today, there's some little, I don't even want to call them posts, but like sort of flat yellow.
Rebar.
It might be, yeah.
Well,
right in that area.
Well, the reason I asked them to put something there because the stones aren't very tall. And all I could think of is if we had a 2-foot snowfall, the stones would be covered. And if the Legion has somebody plowing, they could go down there and just plow right into the stones. I don't know. I just was picturing that because I know that the stones aren't that tall.
Yep.
Yeah.
Could we plant, and maybe, I don't know if John Bader's, oh, there's John. Hi, John. Whether it'd be better to have some kind of green fence, screening with some bushes or something instead of the stones?
But then if they push the snow up against them in the wintertime.
It's just a little bit safer for if bicyclists go golly wobble off the side. I don't know how close they are to the trail.
That's pretty far off the trail.
Okay.
It's right on the edge of the Legion parking lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, I mean, actually, though, Wendy, I agree with you there. I'd rather see a living fence. If they would want to do that, they could easily do it along that whole parking lot, and that would solve the problem. And that would be natural and be a win-win for everyone, except for whoever has to pay for it,
Pay for it and maintenance of it. Who's going to take care of it?
Yeah.
Well,
That's a good point.
the mowing might be easier if they're all in a line rather than trying to mow around a bunch of little rocks, but I don't know.
Well, it's way off the mowing strip.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe they could do, maybe there could be some arborvitae or something put next to the rocks or near the, to kind of.
Or it can be on the other side of the path, where the entry into the parking area for the park is. There's that little strip there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think having a nice, breaking up the visual of the back of the the building there wouldn't be a bad thing.
Well, and one of the issues may be people who are visiting INSA, who are leaving, who aren't familiar with the area behind the mills, may think that the exit is through the Legion parking lot, And because there's no sign pointing that the exit is actually, you kind of have to veer to the left to meet up with Pleasant Street. If there were better signage there, you might kind of prevent some of this issue.
Yeah, I don't know, Dave. I walk that trail every weeknight now, and I've seen a number of people go through there before they put the boulders there, and I think those are homies. Those aren't people that are lost after going to INSA or something. Those are guys hanging out at the VFW or something, or whatever they're doing, but they know what they're doing.
And I do know that Greg said that while the trail was under construction, you know, that whole thing was under construction, the DPW guy, I mean, they were using that, they were driving over that area just because it was easier to do that than go through all of the construction. So,
oh yeah, well actually that's what I was saying before. The place where David put the cone, they actually, you could see it's a direct line in from the entrance from Ferry Street straight to the trail, and the construction equipment was coming right through there.
You're right.
See, where they actually made a dirt road just by going over it over and over again.
Yeah. Yep. So I was out there this weekend, you know, checking on the trees, which Chuck Shea did go and deal with those trees this past week. Mike Michon did agree to pay for $1,000 of the $1,500 bill. And while I was out there, I was noticing all of the nice newly planted grass. So I did ask Jeff who was going to be responsible for mowing up, you know, the hillsides, because it's, you know, kind of goes up the bank to where the little parking area is. And he did say that you know, the Ferry Street, they're going to take care of that. Correct, Jeff?
Yep. Yeah, that area, and then the landscaping that's on the spur, the multi-use path along the pond. So there's going to be a little bit of landscaping in there, and that's all going to be, the topical stuff is going to be maintained by the developer. That's the other part of this easement that we've been working on, is to have them take some of the responsibility for some of those maintenance items. So it's really helpful. They're going to do some of the snow removal. It's a little bit of a split with DPW, so they're going to clear the walks, and then for bigger events where there's big piles, the DPW will come pick up the piles. But the owner, I should just say, the owner of Ferry Street, you know, whomever it may be in the future, will be doing the clearing of the snow clearing from those walkways as well.
Okay. Anything else, Jeff?
I don't think so, unless you need me for anything else, or if there's any other. Oh, the open space plan.
Can I just ask one quick question about Ferry Street? Are there going to be lights behind 1 Ferry Street along the trail?
No, the lights do not extend that far. The lights, no. We tried, I'll try to explain, but we tried to fund, we tried to add lights from along Millside Park down that long stretch, the entrance drive for Millside Park. We tried to fund that with this project, but the numbers, everything, we had a couple of issues with the project over time, and the numbers just ballooned in a certain area, and so we couldn't. We had that as an ad alternate in the section from Ferry Street to Millside Park. With that, we couldn't afford to do that. And so there's no other lights going past that. There's lights on the Ferry Street section along the pond, but those are it's like street lights. All the lighting fixtures went up recently. In the past 2 weeks, they went up.
Are there lights in the parking lot behind his building that would spill onto the bike path and provide light on the path?
What I would say is that the new parking area that's a little higher on Love Field, so we added those parking spaces. There's lights up there.
Okay.
And I think that those lights would spill onto that section of the path. But where you get into that spur and start to go behind his building, there was no funding available to add the lights there.
Okay.
That would have been great.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that you had an agenda item about other lights. I mean, those are big ticket items, but we tried to add some lights. We tried to add additional lights, but it didn't work.
Thanks for trying, though.
Yeah, Wendy, as long as we got Jeff here, maybe we should, we've got, Wendy has written up a support letter for the open space plan. Wendy, Jeff?
So I assume you sent out the revised, I made that one little tweak that you requested, Barb, but basically it's the same as the one that was sent out a couple weeks ago. So this is just to send to the state, correct, Jeff? The letters of support will go to the state because this master plan revision has to be approved by the state. So they ask for letters of support from interested parties or supporting parties. So this would be our letter. So unless anybody has any objections, I'd like to hopefully take a vote and we can then submit that letter.
Yep, looked good to me. Anybody else have any comments on the letter?
I think it's good.
Okay.
Good.
All right.
Motion to approve?
Second,
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, I'll sign that and I'll get that to you, Jeff, probably tomorrow.
That would be great. I mean, it's within the next couple of weeks, it's fine, but I'll take it whenever it's completed. I just want to thank Wendy because Wendy was on the steering committee for the open space plan project update. And, it was a lot of meetings and a big lift, but it's a really important plan. If you haven't, already, I would encourage you to take some time along the way and read it. We are having a meeting on Wednesday night, which is our last community meeting to kind of share out some of the survey responses that we had and then to go through some of the action items that are listed. I think as a committee, I would elevate you guys higher than just a community meeting. So we wanted to get the letter of support from you all, but then the plan does try to really outline a couple of ambitious things and then some real nuts and bolts kind of thing. And I think, Wendy was participating on kind of the idea of maintenance and a direct funding source for maintenance of the rail trail. It's really difficult to be having these discussions during COVID when we're talking about budget cuts and having a hard time creating the revenue. But when we get out of this, I think, it's clearly listed in the plan to really try to seek, legitimate city funding and maintenance of the rail trail. I think that's kind of why Barbara alluded to the fact that maybe someday the path would be like just built in as a maintenance item for some department, whether it's DPW or park. So I think that's really important. I think the idea of continuing to connect people from the bike path, especially to the new school. If things like that happen, then other connections will get made too. So those are all kind of outlined in the plan in terms of kind of like specific things for this committee. I appreciate it. I appreciate Wendy's work on it.
I just want to add to that the meeting on Wednesday is at 5:30. It's virtual, obviously, and it'll probably go, about an hour and a half, which seems like a lot, but I think it'll go by quickly, and the more voices we have, the better. So I encourage you to participate. It's a visioning session. It's not a meeting per se. It's really designed to get some input from everybody. So if you can spare some of that time to log in, the login is on our website, on the Rail Trail website. It's also on the city's homepage. Did it make the homepage yet, Jeff, or?
It's on the planning department page, but it's there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Or if anybody needs it, or I can send it out to Barb and she can share it to everybody. But if you have a chance, I think obviously the rail trail is a big part of the plan. And so the more voices we have from our committee, the better.
I'm planning to go.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thanks, Wendy. And thanks, Jeff, for taking some of your night to join with us.
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for what you all do, and we'll catch up soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. While we're on letters, Liz, did you want to talk, Liz and Steve, I guess, did you want to talk about your, the correspondence that you sent and what we really should do with it?
Well, Steve, did you want to talk about this or shall I plunge ahead?
Yeah, I guess it's really just to get our input on it and to make sure that we get it into the proper city officials, which, Barb, I guess you're one, and I guess by giving it to you, maybe I don't know if we've accomplished our objective or if we need to make sure it gets in the mayor's hand or whatever. Liz,
So the vote has been taken by your committee, and that's the name, the New Haven and Northampton Canal Greenway. That's official.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So I guess my question is, who do we need to send this letter to in order to just keep them updated that we're joining this greater whole? Would that be the mayor? Would it be Parks and Rec? City council? I don't know. Who should get it?
I mean, I think out of courtesy, probably at least a letter to the mayor would be a good idea.
Okay.
I mean, how much beyond that it has to go? I'm not really sure. I don't know. What are people's thoughts?
Well, the more people that know, the better. I mean, why not let the city parks department know, since we're under their auspices at this point?
Okay.
I think that might be a good thing for Jeff to know about too.
I mean, I could take this letter and I could just put it to the mayor and the city council and the park and rec department and just say good, at least then it's out there.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Sounds reasonable.
Okay.
Right.
Do you want me just to take that letter, Liz, that you sent and just plop it onto letterhead and?
Sure.
Okay. Okay.
Can I ask?
That's pretty good, Barb. Liz and I probably had the easiest job then of any of the members of the other committees, because that was, thank you.
I'm good at cutting and pasting.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll do it to the mayor. I'll just city council just because, and the park and rec.
Right. Because there will be signs eventually indicating that we're part of this larger corridor, and so it would probably be good for those folks to know why there are suddenly new signage going up if they've never heard that we're even participating in this.
So, I kind of wonder, that signage that's up right now that just appeared overnight, what does that say? What's that?
Like Bay State Greenway or something?
So I just wonder if people are going to be really confused as to what's going on with all these different signs.
I don't know. I never knew where those Bay State Greenway signs came from or what the Bay State Greenway is. I'd be just as happy to see those taken down when we go to put up this other thing, which is more important because it's a real thing.
I think you need to look up the Bay State Greenway, because I believe that's an even larger vision of something that goes all the way across the whole state.
Did that come from the state or from a private group? Did it come
Nobody
from the state?
knows.
Yeah.
Nobody knows. I mean, maybe Craig Della Penna knows, but none of us were notified that we were suddenly part of something.
I would ask Jeff McCullough at Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, because, you just want to make sure it's not part of that New England network that we were designated.
Yeah.
Whether the new signs will go on the same post as those. I just wonder, people are going to go, what the heck are all these names?
That's a good point. Yeah, we should resolve that, figure that out.
I just did a search online. It says the Bay State Greenway is a 7-corridor, 742-mile statewide system of bicycle routes. It's a key component of Mass DOT's Green DOT policy and part of the healthy transit.
And that's why you have to be careful, because it might be like, the trail we're talking about is an 85-mile trail, which seems large, but there's all these constituents who are trying to make these trails that are more of a calling card or a vacation destination, whatever you want to call it. these trails that are 800 miles long, like
Yeah.
the East Coast Greenway is one that's there. They already have signs and designations for that goes down the whole East Coast, from Nova Scotia to Florida to Key West. But there, inside of that trail, there's probably 500 other rail trails.
I wonder if we should kind of follow Northampton has those signs, I'm sure, as well. And if you, Liz and Steve, if you could kind of keep in touch with Northampton when the signage for this trail starts to be available.
Yeah.
Like, what's Northampton going to do? I mean, how are they going to
Well, I think actually, Barb, that may be taken care of. It depends. The committee that we're working on, may get some funding and may come up with uniform standards and may be able to, I don't know if they would actually fund it or whatever, but, we may see a uniform standard out of this. So we wouldn't want to go ahead and do anything until we did coordinate exactly with Northampton and with the committee.
Right. So is this committee that you guys are participating on, is it still ongoing? Or,
Yeah.
Okay. So can you just kind of keep that question about all those other signs in the back of your head?
Yeah.
And see what.
Yeah.
So that's just quickly there. The whole idea wasn't just to come up with a name; it's to come up with a uniform way of handling this in terms of signage, everything else like that, but also maybe marketing, like John was saying.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Jeff McCullough is part of the committee, so it'll be easy to coordinate with him.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's, maybe it's hard to think about this now, but in the future, you may wheel up to our main kiosk, say the one that's downtown, and you would see a trail map of the Manhan Railway, and then you would see a trail map of the New Haven Northampton Greenway, and then another trail map of the Bay State Greenway.
Well, the part of what the committee is working towards is a map that incorporates the entire corridor with links to all of the individual sections, but also showing how the whole thing fits together.
Oh,
And
that's
that
for the
will
Northampton, New Haven?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really great.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the main focuses, is to have it easy for people to see that this whole thing is one continuous, well, almost continuous corridor.
I have a quick question, Liz and Steve. Is there anybody from Southampton participating in this?
Yes, I think
They're included. I don't think that they've come to the meetings we've had so far. Am I right, Steve?
Well, where is Christy from? Is she from?
She's in Connecticut somewhere.
Oh, Connecticut. Okay.
Maybe Southwick. She's
Southwick.
either right on the border or she's
Southwick. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
Southwick.
I always confuse Southwick with Southampton. Okay. Yeah, you're right. I'm sure they've been notified, but right, I don't recall that they've ever attended.
So the reason I ask is we had a link on our website for Southampton that went to some Chinese, some overseas website. It was no longer Southampton.
Because there's no.
And I left messages with the town administrator, and I've tried to get somebody from the Southampton bike committee, if there is such a thing, to tell me if they had any kind of new website or a link or a Facebook page, and I've gotten nowhere. So I just wondered if through this group, if there was a contact that you could give me a name, and
we can find out.
Okay,
We
thank
can
you.
find out, because I know there are a lot of people that are nominally part of this committee that haven't been participating, or at least not every time. So, and I'm pretty sure there are representatives of every trail section along the entire corridor, including the potential one in Southampton. So when do we meet again? In a couple of weeks, I think we have another meeting, and we can find out.
Okay.
Also, Wendy, it seems like it was only a week or so ago, I had an email from somebody from Southampton and they were looking for they were looking for the number of, if we had any data on the trail users, the number of trail users. And she was wondering about the Coleman Road end because it was something to do with getting funding to purchase the corridor. So let me see if I can, it was just a week or so ago. Let me see who sent that out, and I'll send you her email address.
Okay.
I can't remember who it was, but I was surprised to see it looked like there was activity again.
Great.
We're led to believe that there's activity, but I'm not sure where it stands.
Yeah, I told her I didn't really know. I directed her to Jeff. I said, we had that trail counter, but it's nowhere near the Southampton end, and I don't think it's been active for a while. So I couldn't really help her, but it was interesting.
Yeah, I can send a letter to we've got an email list serve thing for this committee, and I can send to that and say who in this group is here representing Southampton, and can you let us know?
Yeah.
Thank you.
As long as we're on Southampton, Wendy, I think, well, I don't know, was it you and I that got the message from the person who lived near the Coleman Road end of the trail? And
yes, so I had a few email exchanges with him.
okay.
So just to let everybody know, there's a gentleman who lives adjacent to the trail, but I believe it's on the other side, on the Southampton side. And he loves the trail and he's a big fan, but he said sometimes there's a lot of garbage down there. And also there's a TV was left there on the side of the road. And people are relieving themselves on his property.
Oh, dear.
Well, I don't think the public safety building is open, so there's no bathroom facilities along the trail, to my knowledge. So people get off the trail, I guess. Anyway, I invited him to the meeting. I don't see him on, but I told him we would talk about it and see if we could come up with something about the trash and or the other issue. I mean, he said he was on his deck, and it's really where they're relieving themselves is on the unfinished part of the trail where the Southampton section goes, where it's still the track section.
Well, that's good at least.
I guess, except he's up there on his deck and he looks over and people are peeing.
So do we need a
Tell him to support.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, tell them to support getting the path there, because if there was an actual path there, people wouldn't be relieving themselves. That's why they're going off in the woods.
I think, well, I have two thoughts. One, and I know I'm anti-signage. Steve, I know you're going to say no more signs, but can we put up signage there? Please respect a butter's property. Something generic, please do not litter. I don't know, something.
Curb yourself, maybe.
And the other issue would be to connect with Southampton authorities and tell them, because it's on their property, and we don't know for sure that it's trail users. It could be people just, I don't know, walking up and down Coleman Road. We don't know for sure that it's trail related, but
Probably.
I mean, I'd be willing to try to contact somebody in Southampton, and maybe they can put up signage on their section.
You know, the problem is, I don't think it would really do any good.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I could see, how about a pack in, pack out sign? I mean, we could put some of those up.
How about a porta potty?
Well, you know,
You probably
People
wouldn't
get
want
to the end of the
looking
trail
at
and they gotta go.
I don't know. Maybe we do need a porta potty somewhere along the trail, because right now, where are you going to go?
Nowhere. There's
That is a problem, then obviously.
I always thought that. I mean, the Mass Central, the Norwottuck Trail, the East-West Trail has porta potties at a couple of different places.
Yeah.
And I think it's important.
Where would we?
Maybe
put
it's something we have to consider.
Yeah.
Where would we put it?
somewhere near the circle, off the side of that circle at the end.
Off the circle?
I don't think it matters as long as there's some, as long as it's within the general range of, one at either end of the trail or something. It doesn't have to be perfectly placed.
Well, you can't really have it like right next to the road, because that's not really good.
No,
It
no.
needs to be close enough to the road so that when it's serviced, the company can reach it.
Yeah.
And, they can drive and drop it. I don't know,
My feeling would be to contact the Southampton people, tell him that we contacted the Southampton people and not worry about it.
Yeah.
I just, porta potty feels like, I don't know. I guess I'm not that bothered by someone peeing in the woods.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. This is a public health issue. I know I'm a guy, I understand, but we can't have that. We can't have that, especially when that person can see it and is complaining about it. That's unhygienic. It's not, and I know porta potties are crappy, but as a couple of people have mentioned, almost every bike trail has them now.
Yeah.
What
Think
about
about
at
it.
the
When
end
you
of
go
Mojito
riding on other
Way?
trails, there are porta potties. We're maybe like the only one that doesn't have any.
Where is one in Northampton?
There's a few in Northampton, I thought. There's up by Damon Road at the beginning. Then,
Road, Station Road in Amherst.
yeah. So
And then at the, I mean, people have to go, and especially now that the restrooms at the park are closed and the public safety complex is closed, and a lot of businesses aren't going to let people in to use their bathrooms.
Well, no, I agree. I mean, I'm not thinking about it now, but I mean, they pass a lot of bathrooms in town. Now, maybe now, COVID's a different time, but I don't know. It feels like, because they go they pass one at Millside Park. In town, there's a lot of places to go to the bath. I don't know. It feels like, I guess I feel like we put in a porta potty. It feels like it's inviting other issues.
Not if you put it somewhere where it's safe. I think more the point is that what they're saying is that the bathrooms at Millside Pond are only open in the summer.
Right.
So there's nowhere to go to the bathroom in, September, October, November, March, April.
Maybe we see if we can get those open.
Well, I don't even know if they were open this past summer.
No.
Well, COVID's different, right? But we're talking, I don't know. It just feels like it's a cost. It's a monthly cost, and I feel like it's going to be a thing where we're going to hear about, oh, the porta potty is ugly. Oh, there was vandalism in the porta potty. I don't know.
And then,
I guess I feel like is it really driven by this one guy saying this, or have we felt that before, that this has been a big issue?
I felt it all along, because anytime, if I drive somewhere to go to a trail and I get there and there's nowhere for me to go to the bathroom, then I've got a problem. It's not people are coming onto the trail, not in the downtown area all the time. They're coming in at the ends where there's no facilities or any businesses anywhere around.
yes,
And if you're not from here, it
that
doesn't
raises
feel...
the point of, do we have to have one down at Route 5 too?
I think we should.
Yes.
Yes.
If you call it a trail head,
Oh,
That's cute.
Yeah, and if you're not from around here, You're not going to go downtown and start riding around looking for a place to sneak in to use the bathroom. It's just not.
No.
I mean, but you're like passing tandem. I mean, it's not. I don't know.
Well, what if you're passing tandem at 5 minutes after 3, though?
And most businesses mark that their restrooms are for their customers. They're not for all the passersby on the trail.
And yeah,
Another question is like right now during COVID are porta potties, I guess they have the little hand sanitizers in there and.
Yeah.
this wouldn't be until that's all resolved, I think. I don't.
Does somebody want to contact like Ricky's Porta Potty and just see what they cost?
Yes, I'll do it.
You want to do that?
I think it, and now that we've brought it up, I think it is an important thing.
Yeah.
And I think that they can be placed strategically in high traffic areas where they won't get vandalized. Like put one right where the police station is.
Well, I don't think I think I'd want them on the ends of the trail.
Yeah, I think that's where we
I don't want to
start.
put them in the middle of the.
But that's the area where no one's around.
Yep.
But that's where they're needed.
That's where they're needed, though.
Yeah.
Okay, just plan on vandalism and you're going to have to look at the Coleman site because that bollard is right close to the road there. So that truck isn't going to be able to get in there if you plan on putting it around the little circle or the kiosk. And he's got to pump that thing. I don't know how often they do that, but he's got to be able to get up to that thing to maintain it and pump it.
Wouldn't they have a big long hose or something?
I don't know how that works. I know I've been through the park and saw vandalism on when they had them down by the soccer fields. They push them over. So are you going to be dialing Rick's all the time to go stand it up and check it out, and fix it and repair it and clean it? There's a lot involved with just let's throw one down there. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, John, you want to go ahead and give them a call and see what they say?
Yep. I'll get
Can't
some.
hurt to ask, I guess. I don't know.
Right. And what we can do is if we run into problems like that, then we learn a lesson and then we shift positions or whatever. But to address both what Scott and what Peter is saying, I understand entirely what you're saying. I agree with you. I don't want this headache at all. But I know when I go on other trails, like Liz says, if you need one of those and you're searching around and there's nothing around, yes, it's a man's world and guys can do it a lot easier in the woods, but still there's times where there's nowhere to go. And it's an important thing to have. It's a real facility.
At East Street, there's probably going to be a Dunkin' Donuts right there, right?
That's a good point.
I don't know.
Good point.
Well,
We don't know that.
Are people, I don't know, would you not use a Dunkin' Donuts restaurant without buying a donut? I don't know.
Well, Dunkin'
Well, no,
Donuts.
I think that's a strong argument on that end. I think that's a good point.
When and if they build it.
right.
Yeah, that's, I don't know if you've been to any of the planning board meetings, but that's.
Is that an if?
That's an if, in my opinion.
All right.
Barb would agree on that.
Well, we could put one there and then take it down if Dunkin' Donuts comes along, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And they're going to want people to go into their store because if you go into the store, you might grab a coffee or a donut while you're in there. So.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, I'm not for making people uncomfortable or whatever. You know what I mean? I just worry
It's a hassle, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it will be a hassle. The other thing to keep in mind is a lot of the people who ride the trail are older. And I know you're younger, but as you get older, let me tell you.
Fair enough.
All right. Well, it's worth taking a look at, I guess. John, you can report back at our next meeting.
Okay.
And just so you know, I'm not against them. I just wanted to point out all the issues that may come up.
Yeah.
But certainly I would use one if it was there. So I mean, like I said, I'm not against it, but I just want to make sure you see the whole picture,
Fair point.
Okay.
Do you want me to contact Southampton anyway or not bother? I mean, in the
They're not-
meantime, I can ask them to
They do
post
anything
something
until they actually make a trail.
Yeah, I think we might as well just take care of it on our side and,
Okay.
you know,
It might be, I mean, it might be worth contact or just, I don't know. I feel like just to tell him that we contacted. I mean, it really is. I know they're going there because of the trail, but it's happening on that. If it's happening on that side, which it is happening for a reason, because there's nothing down there. There's no signage. There's no, I don't know. Might be just to let him know that they should be aware too.
Well, meanwhile, Steve and I are gonna find out who the Southampton representative on this Unified
Right.
Trail
Well, that's
is. And they may become our contact person.
For the Southampton, do they have a Board of Health or a health?
yep, I'm sure they do. Yeah.
Okay. That would be the other one to go to.
Yeah.
Oh,
No pun
speaking
intended.
of Board of Health, and going back to someone said something about vandalism. You know the signs they put up for you must wear a mask that they put on the trail.
Yeah,
The one down on Route 5, someone broke it in half, so there's just half of the sign is there, and the rest is torn off.
right.
So we got an anti-masker in the town.
Steve, if you're down there, why don't you grab that and I'll see if Bree can put another one down there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do you think it was vandalism or was it from the wind? Because we did have a big windstorm the other night.
It looked like it was snapped. It is a clear break. I think someone
Yeah.
snapped it.
She probably has some, you know, I gotta expect that, so
Yeah.
she maybe has some more. Okay. I've got, Peter, did you get my message I sent you the other day about that sign? The one, let me see if I can do this.
Yeah, the faded one on the Northampton Fork.
Can you see this?
Yeah.
Steve, this was the one, it's like the trails merge sign.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that yellow one there. Yeah. I remember
Yeah,
that.
so that's totally all faded away now. So I wonder, Peter, I assume that's on with tamper-proof screws?
Yeah, the tamper-proof nuts on the back. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if we should just take that off. I
That
mean,
makes sense.
it's not doing anything.
All right. I'd have to meet somebody there. I'm done with like ladders and stuff, you know.
Yeah, it's not that high. but-
Okay. Well, still, well, I'm short.
Okay.
I'm tall. Just let me know, Peter. I'll meet you there, wherever it is.
Yeah, it's right at the fork, right before the fork, the Ferry Street fork, David.
If you're coming from Northampton.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're coming from Northampton.
It's on the right side between the trail and Lovefield Street. Just before you get to the fork, it's right
Yeah,
there.
it's like here, can you see it? Here's Lovefield Street. The fork
Okay.
is over here on the left. But this is like facing towards the Ferry Street.
Ferry Street.
So do we have, so what tool do we need to remove it?
A large adjustable and a special nut that goes on there so you can spin it off.
Do we
I
have
have
that in the shed? Do we have that in the shed or?
Yes, we do. Yeah.
And and also there is some graffiti on signs down in that area. I don't really know if now's the time it's probably too cold to do anything, but
Yes.
there's that one and there's the one that's right next to the fork that's got spray paint all over it.
Yeah, and there's also one either at Arthur or at Gosselin. One of the truck crossing signs has a lot of moss growing on it.
Well, take some cleaner with you, Steve, and paper towel.
Actually, I've been thinking of it, Peter, but I've been thinking of it probably for years. I never did anything.
Yeah. I've noted there is graffiti on several signs. Maybe this spring we can have a little cleaning party and get out
Okay,
there.
that's what Barb, the other thing, the signs that I pointed out that were on that platform near the construction crew, near the park, you know, the wooden platform they built there.
Right, the deck.
Right, and one of the signs was a stop ahead sign. By coincidence, I don't know, I forget if it's Arthur or if it's Gosselin, one of our stop ahead signs was stolen and we never replaced it. So if we still have that sign, we could put that up at that intersection and replace the missing one.
I don't know. I'm not sure what you're talking about.
So remember in the emails when I sent a bunch of pictures and I sent a bunch of issues, right? The boulders that were all
Was
that
it a
crap.
street
the
sign?
lights.
Was it
Yeah.
a street sign?
Yes. No, it was our. It's taken too long here. I'll send you an email or something. and
Okay,
explain.
it wasn't on the. Okay.
It's the bike trails approach to Ferry Street. It needs to have a sign that
Right.
says,
So there used to be a sign. We had a sign that said "Stop ahead," right? And that was discarded and put on that wooden platform. And it was replaced by the new symbol that they have for stop ahead. You know how they don't use words anymore? There's some kind of symbol, right? So now we got that extra sign. And I was just thinking.
I don't know where that sign is. I don't know. Maybe DPW has it, but
Okay.
I don't know. There is another sign further down where they. I took a picture of it, but it says, "Please walk your bike." You know, where they were working
I saw
on the
that.
trail. That I told Jeff that needs to come down because it doesn't make sense now.
Yeah.
And also right there's another sign and it's crooked and it's got graffiti on it. So maybe this spring the DPW can straighten that up.
Yeah.
But. Oh, so yeah, so Chuck Shea, he went down there. He said it was quite a mess down there. He ended up chipping some stuff and taking down those trees that were leaning, and it's still, there's a lot of bittersweet down there, and it's a mess. There's stuff on the ground like chunks of concrete, and hopefully when Mike does that property, that chain link fence will go away because it's pretty messy down there.
Where exactly are you talking about now?
Right there at the fork.
Okay.
Right where you go heading down to Route 5.
Okay.
Where it curves.
Yep. But it took a while to get those trees dealt with. It was a tricky spot to get into. They had to come in through Goslin Drive. But we finally did get it taken care of. So.
Barb, do you, I've got, you got the padlock, right?
Well, he put it onto the bollard.
Okay. I got a bunch of keys. I'm going to put an envelope addressed to you and drop it in the Dropbox for you.
Okay.
It's a disc for the root barrier, and it's going to have a bunch of trail keys that I found, so you can give to people who complain, DPW or the PD, that they don't have keys. You'll have some spares to hand out to them.
Yeah. So anyway, Chuck Shea we needed to give him there was one bollard that he needed to get taken off. So Peter dropped off the key. Anyway, he had to cut off the lock, and then the thing was like, I don't know, what is it, like rusted to the stub? He couldn't get it off.
Yep, exactly.
He couldn't get it off. So he ended up driving around it. So, part of me thinks that come this spring, we should just go out and we should look at all of the bollards, and we should figure out which ones are really, there for a real reason, and which ones are unnecessary. And then we should just have the DPW go out and cut them off and pave over them. I don't know. That's kind of my thought about the bollards.
I've thought that for years, Barb, so I'm happy to support that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some that make sense, but others, and especially when you can't even get the thing off. So.
Yeah, that defeats the purpose.
So maybe this spring, that would be a good project of just going out and checking to see where they are and how they all, look. Okay.
Good
Okay,
idea.
anything else? Anybody have anything else to bring up?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention about the lights
Oh, right.
for Williston that, we kind of decided to break for the winter, although there isn't any snow on the ground, but it's hard to spec it out with the snow because the vendor's supposed to meet us there, who's going to propose the different options for fixtures. But I guess if it doesn't snow, then I'll still try to get out there, but it might not be till March, depending on, the snow. And obviously the holidays.
But the important thing is, it looks like they are still moving forward with it, and it is going to happen.
Yeah, I think that they're interested in talking about it, surely, and they want it because of the safety issue that a lot of kids walk from the skating rink right out onto the trail and all the way down to the school to get back down to where where like the parking lot is, basically right next to the fire station. So they've got kids walking that whole stretch there as sort of like, an extension of the campus almost. It's like a direct route to get to that parking lot down there. So, I don't know if they're going to foot the whole bill, but like I said, I'm trying to get a whole team involved where maybe I can get the DPW and the school to work together, and maybe the town electrician, maybe.
Great.
Well, definitely the DPW, there's a sewer line that runs down that whole stretch.
Yep.
If they got a trench, and then you got the embankment on the other side, yeah, it's a little tricky for running concrete because of that bridge and stuff too. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. All right, what dates look good in February? How does February 22nd look?
As far as I know.
Looks good.
Great. Yeah, Liz is retired now. She can do any night. Oh, and speaking of that,
Congratulations.
would you be interested in if we started a little bit earlier, maybe even 6:30? 7 o'clock just seems so late now when we're all at home anyway.
Right.
Could we try 6:30?
Yeah.
Sure. Works for me.
Okay. All right. Okay, so Steve, can you, if you can just send me that motion that we, for that first, the easement thing?
Yep. Okay.
Yep, that'd be great.
And I'm sending you the revised phrase for the minutes for the Ferry Street intersection.
Oh, right,
Okay,
to Steve.
great.
Yeah, okay.
All right, let me take a step back. Scott, I think you had the idea for the wording. Do you want to craft something, please, and send it to me? I don't want to just, me, I'm a person of few words. I would have just written it, very straightforward and be a bullet point, and that would have been it. So if you want some more language, feel free to give it to me. I think you might be
You're
on mute.
muted.
Yeah.
So what did you have, Steve?
Say once again.
What did you have down before?
Oh, I just, hold on. I'm not sure I can find it, but I'm sure. Okay, vote to support easement and support. So I said, I would have just said vote to support the easement, and then I added, and support the effort of the city and the developer to cooperate for bike projects. So something along.
That, I think what you just said is perfect.
Oh, good. Oh, all right. All right. Then we're good. Then we're good.
What you just said is perfect.
I would probably add as presented by the city planner to the bike path committee or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just have one last quick question. In the fall, we talked about getting somebody to look at the pavement, the repavement. Did that ever happen? Did anybody walk the?
Look at what? Sorry, you were.
The root cracks.
I had mentioned it to George, but that guy is so out straight. I tried a couple of times, and he just didn't have the time.
So can we get on his calendar for the spring? Is there a way to book him ahead?
He's already booked to August.
Well,
And maybe even beyond now, it was a while since I talked to him.
Well, we might want to just mention it because every once in a while, some of these guys have a day here or there. We would just need to be very specific about where we're talking about. Like, is it just that section down by Millside Park? Be really specific and so if he had a day or two, he could just go and do it and be done.
Well, listen, I've poked enough at him, Barb. If you hit him up too, now he'll be getting it from a couple people, and maybe there'll be a little more of an urgency to it, other than listening to his brother-in-law.
Yeah. So Wendy, were you thinking just of those spots down by Millside?
It's a start. I think that's the worst.
Okay, because we would have to be very specific, have like, okay, this spot and this spot, it would need to be, I wouldn't want to waste his time like, well, let's go look at this and let's go look at this. I think we need to be real specific about any places that are really bad.
So do we know if doing that work, which I presume means cutting the roots, would kill those trees?
I hope so.
It hasn't killed the other trees where we've done root work. The roots just grow back, but
yeah,
right. And those generally are black locusts, which are not native, so we're not.
Doesn't it seem like the park department should do that?
Yep.
Because they were the ones that planted those trees.
Yep.
And it is the park.
Well,
those are not black locusts, but I planted them too close to begin with.
But maybe that should be brought up since they are adjacent to the park.
And they put them in.
Maybe.
What do you think our chances would be? I don't think they have any money, right?
Well, it could maybe come under the tree warden department.
Well, it's worth a try. If we can unload that project, that would be great.
How many spots are there down there? A couple, 3? It's not a huge number. It's pretty localized right down there.
Yeah, there are some that are a little bit sort of adjacent to the entryway, and then there's some that are sort of less severe, closer to the park itself. But it's the ones sort of along the entryway that I think, there's a few there that are really bad and they're deteriorating.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk to John, or?
I can send him an email. I don't know what they'll say.
Do you want me to take some photos and email those to you, and you can forward them?
That'd be great, yeah. And I
Okay.
suppose well, it's not really the time of the year to mark the trail, but yeah, if you could do that, John, David, that would be wonderful.
Okay.
Yep.
Good.
Anything else? All right. Good enough. Motion to adjourn? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Everyone,
See you later.
Later.
thanks.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Stay healthy, everybody.